Hello, I'm Sheila Dang, and I'm here to talk about Gibran Khalil Gibran. I'm certain that most of you, many of you here, have your own stories on how you came to know Gibran, and I'd like to tell you my story. I was one day on my way to pay a utility bill downtown, and I made a detour into the Cleveland Public Library main branch. They were having their annual book sale. And by chance, I stumbled upon this treasure, a 1959 copy of a book titled A Self-Portrait. It was a book of letters. I skimmed through the book, glanced over the letters, and I knew right away that I wanted it. I was very interested in the person behind these letters. And it wasn't until much later that I actually read the letters in depth. And I was taken outside of my existence into his world. I knew this man. I understood his passions, and I felt his vulnerabilities and his frailties, and yes, he was a very phenomenal person. He was very driven. Um, he was very business-minded. He was intelligent, and he had a lot going for him, of course, but underneath all that was the pressure, pressure coming from, you know, people in the literary world to mold him into what they wanted him to be, and his own desires of what he wanted to be and the things that he needed to say, which is something that I feel he fell short of, expressing that thing or those things that were deepest inside of himself. You know, I of course loved his this book of letters, a self-portrait, and also there's another book of letters that I really adore called Blue Flames, um, that were between him and his correspondence with Zeta, and who they actually never met, but very interesting letters. And I think he was able to kind of express some of those longings that he had with her, even though, they were from two different mindsets, he and she. And of his literary works, I really loved Madman. One of my favorite books of all times. There's a few poems in the book that I really love, and one of them being Defeat, which I feel isn't actually about defeat at all, but more so about defiance, and how sometimes our defiance is our undoing. And it sort of reminded me of my son, you know, and I really treasure that that poem, the feelings that it gives me, and the understanding of, that mind frame, people with that mind frame, you know, and what they're going through, and those type of things. I actually wrote or began writing poems for about uh, Gibran, and my first poem was called A Self-Portrait. Sorry, it was called In the Heart of Lebanon, and my son actually came up with that title. He was 13 at the time, I think, and my method of writing at that time was to come up with a title, and from the title, allow myself to be carried away into all of the, feelings and research and things like that. And my son was like, well, Mom, how about In the Heart of Lebanon? And I thought it was perfect because when you think about the heart of something, you think of that certain thing that is the crux, the main focus of, you know, and he personified that, the heart of this place, with all this rich history and culture surrounding it. He still took on that center role. I mean, we're talking about a place that's the home of holy cedars. King Solomon's temple was built, in part from, you know, these uh, cedar trees. But yet Gibran was the main focus, of you know, this this humble place. So yes, I chose to use it, and I also ended my poem in it. I would like to recite that to you. I think I'll do that right now before I go any further. In the heart of Lebanon. By fate I was guided into a blanket of hope. The raw, untainted texture of your writings. I am consumed in your powerful artistic soul, led down unfamiliar paths into a voracious light. Sweet smells from the holy cedars of Lebanon, and sweet are melodious sounds of songs in the valley, created by gentle breezes. Divine solitude, smooth, flexed waves of thought. Your wisdom, like fast-moving clouds, have no boundaries, no obstacles, just endless motion. Behold, the beauty of his essence in the heart of Lebanon. Well, I hope you like that. And I want to add that I actually started studying Arabic because I really wanted to understand the feelings behind the words. And I never became very fluent in Arabic. I mean, I'm pretty good. I learned a lot, but I never became fluent enough to really utilize the language to understand um, the depths of all what he was trying to say. But in getting to know who he is, I feel very confident that um, the translator who translated the books and writings that I have read, Anthony Ferris, did a pretty good job. I think he was very talented and very in tune to, you know, this artist, this phenomenal artist that we all have come to know and love. I mean, would you all agree? You've come to know and love him. And I really love more his humanness. There was something that I read in one of the books that actually one of his family members wrote, where he says he admits to his dear friend and literary comrade that he was a false alarm. And I knew it. Even before I read it, I mean, it was very obvious to me that he had put up a facade, and I'm not saying it as a put down, and, often people make us much bigger than we are. So we try to appear to be as big as they have created us to be, you know. So I'm not saying that he was a completely broken man. Like I said, he was, intelligent, and he had good business sense, and he was talented, and he just wasn't where he wanted to be, and he hadn't accomplished what he wanted to accomplish, you know. But I hope that before before his death that he realized that that's okay. What he accomplished was a lot, and we can't all, you know, go to that point of where we want to be all the time. So it's all right. I think it's all right. Maybe you wouldn't think so. I don't know. So on that note, I'm gonna go, and I have some things to do today. Actually, I'm starting to test out some of my soap recipes, and that's a whole nother thing, which I don't want to get into. I'd much rather talk about Gibran, and maybe the next time I come back, I'll read one of his poems, and you can feel, through the reading, how it makes me, how I lose myself into, the character of that particular poem that defiant, daring young person who doesn't want to be confined or conformed into something that he's afraid of being. So, take care.